Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, this offseason we've heard about Red Raider defensive depth on depth on depth, but is it for real?
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy, fixin' tired fast with zero sugar and a convenient portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. So go to 5hourenergy.com and use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. Go to 5hourenergy.com today to get in the get it done zone. Chris, that's what we're trying to do this weekend, otherwise known as the end zone. Great to be back with you and one day closer to Red Raider football Saturday night from Jones Stadium. Yesterday, it was an offensive conversation. Today, we'll get defensive. We'll hear from Red Raider defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter on a couple of different fronts. I want to talk about one group that I find to be very key, just like yesterday's group we talked about, that being the quarterbacks, and a thought of as the team goes, so the quarterbacks go. And I kind of wonder in one way if the defensive conversation oriented around getting more turnovers this year could go the way of, say, an outside linebacker or two, disrupting a passing pocket. So we'll get to that group of guys. But first, I want to get back to something we've touched on. We've talked about it. Tim DeRuyter's been asked about it, but it's kind of like a thing that we're hoping is going to be verified when they snap or take the first snap coming up on Saturday night. But until then, it's sort of just talking. I'm talking about the depth and things that could lead to. And you even asked Coach DeRuyter actually a question that we'll hear an answer to here coming up about comparing the depth of the Red Raider defense this year to some places he's been in the past, and overall how, of course, that can lead to fresh legs and great effort from the Red Raiders. Here's Tim DeRuyter.
One of the things we've challenged our guys with since we started this new year over again is, because we have competition, because we have depth, we're going to take it to a different level on how hard we play and demanding them play to a certain standard. And by and large, our guys have stepped up to that. And when you know that your backup is just as good, if not better, I better go as hard as I can for as long as I can, and then I can tap and get the next fresh guy in. I think it motivates you. And guys who won't hold that standard won't get on the field. So it makes for a great situation. It's a great talking point as a coach when you first get somewhere, but guys know who the guys are. If you're clearly a starter and the backup is a little ways behind you, you can say, hey, if you don't go hard, I'm putting the other guy in. But even a tired one is a lot better than the two. It's hard to put that second guy in. And we're in a situation now where we've developed that depth and feel really good about it. When you're talking about 3 deep at edge and 3 deep at the defensive tackle position and not feel like you're getting a huge drop-off. I mean, there's certain things, Aduda Banks and Quincy Ledetz played a lot of football. So they're going to do some things naturally that they don't have to think about, where some of the younger guys, they're going to have to experience everything a little bit more because they just haven't been in that position. But we've got some really talented young guys that as they gain that experience, they may end up being better than the guys who are in the starting roles right now. So competition is a great thing. I've not been anywhere where it's been this deep of competition.
Kind of wild to hear, Chris, such a seasoned DC say something like that. A change for him through the span of his career. And we know it sounds like maybe a change for Texas Tech. So I'm here to be gassed up about this deep defensive front, this deep defense at large, man. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, because I asked Tim, hey, man, because Joey, I think, mentioned 22 to 30 guys on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
That's a big number. I mean, there's been times, David Gibbs, I remember saying to me one time, he's like, man, I really only feel good about 16 guys. After that, it's just, I'm just not real sure. And coaches are going to play with who they trust and who they feel like they can go with, and they're just not going to stretch that pass. But this has been the storyline really for the last 3 to 4 weeks. I don't know if I anticipated this back in the spring that we would be to this point. And I don't know why I didn't, because I knew last spring there's not a draft pick here. There's not a all-conference guy that's just jumping out that's better than everybody. That's not a knock, but it's also speaks to, you've had some Jordan Brooks and some Tyree Wilson and some Rico Jeffers, Colin Schooler type guys that have come in here or created their own accolades. And we have talked ad nauseum about how much we love, Ben Roberts and Jacob Rodriguez. However, one of those is a junior that just hadn't played a ton of football, and Jacob Rodriguez certainly missed his fair share last year. And Ben Roberts is still a young player that's just done it the 1 year. So as much as we love them, they don't really have a lot of staying power yet in the Big 12. But I think this could be fun, but it's also makes you a bit nervous. I think that I want to see. Let's play it out where it was 34-17 Missouri over ACU 2 years ago. That's not exactly a comfortable win by the Power 4 team. At times, that's a 10-point game late in the contest. How deep is your defense willing to be in the opener then? That's when you really find out how much they trust the depth. But I think from talking to, Tim earlier this week, I think what is interesting is that, and I think Barron alluded to this too, because Barron was actually asked, hey, what do you expect to see from ACU? You're not real sure what looks you're going to get. That's the beauty of what Tim does on defense, is that they're going to show you a variety of different looks, and there's some different packages. Now, the key is, like we were talking about in the show a day or so ago, about, okay, when this QB comes in, here's the separate playbook, and they're only running these 5 to 10 plays. You want to make sure that when you have these certain packages on defense, and that you're not tipping your pitches, if you will, but there's a variety of different things that Tim is going to teach, and he's going to try to utilize the skill sets of the Marcus Ramon Edwards, the Mo Horns, the Justin Horns, and all parts in between. Those are some young new pieces, but then you've got the older ones too. But that's what's kind of fun, is because Tim disguises it. Hey, it looks like this, and so when the quarterback snaps it, but then it's not. And that's when you hope that the turnovers come. But, yeah, man, I mean, 10 to 12. Now, a little bit of a hit there with no Charles Esters week 1, no Dylan Spencer for the season. Boom Wilcox, phenomenal nickname, by the way. If you are a defensive player playing college football and your nickname is Boom, God bless you, man. I mean, put it on a shirt. Put it on a shirt. But Boom Wilcox is missing. So that's one piece that I think you were planning on using in the secondary. But short of that, I mean, you still have a lot of available bodies. And there's a lot of youth out there, but there's some older guys too. So let's throw it out there and see what we get. I'm curious for sure, and I'm excited about it. I think it could be a lot of fun. It worries me you don't have a frontline guy or 3, okay? But I do love the fact that, man, if so-and-so goes down, you're screwed. There isn't, Jacob Rodriguez will be as close to that. Ben Roberts would be second closest to that. Past that, I just think you're pretty good shape. Then you get into Braylon Lux and CJ Baskerville and all that. But that it's got a chance to be a lot of fun really all year. And I'm not so certain that you don't start off the season where this side of the ball is much more advanced than what you're trying to do on offense because of your offensive line situation and, Barron's starting a new year and all that stuff. So I don't know what we'll get, but that could be a thought to take into week 1.
That's kind of interesting to consider, because I've thought about who I would expect maybe to be sort of ahead or more justifiably have higher expectations for to open a season. I think a lot of times I've leaned more towards the offense, which is actually a flip in the script from some recent years gone by where I thought, no, I think the defense will be ready and roaring. But the offensive thing is just based in kind of a talent infusion. We feel like it's skill position. And then obviously you got Taj Brooks, but a lot of that has not done anything as far as taking a snap in red and black. So I probably am too quick to go that route. When on the other side, even though it's sort of unproven, you've got some guys that have been in the program for the most part and done some things for you. You've got some guys, obviously, that played more than others, but that's something interesting to consider. Who do you feel like would be maybe more ahead of the game whenever we get things going on Saturday night to kick open the season?
Yeah, because who, by all accounts, who handled their business in both scrimmages?
First, today's episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list of tasks at work or a bundle of do-it-yourself projects to tackle at home, take a 5 Hour Energy shot so you can cover everything with energy to spare. If you're like me, you've always got a lengthy list of things to get done around the house, so when you're getting your supplies for any project, don't forget the most essential one, a 5 Hour Energy shot. 5 Hour Energy shots give you the feeling of alertness and energy you need to get in the zone. And that's why 5 Hour Energy is the brand hardworking people like you have trusted for over 20 years to give them the alert, energized feeling they need to get through a busy and hectic day. And you always know where to find 5 Hour Energy shots, right at the cash register at nearly every convenience, drug, and grocery store nationwide. And even better, you can stock up on money-saving multi-packs to make sure you never run out of delicious, energizing 5 Hour Energy shots. And right now, if you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy today, you can use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB. That's LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Hurry, because this offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions and does not apply to subscription orders. Boost your day and boost your life and get in the Get It Done zone by going to 5hourenergy.com today.
Who, by all accounts, who handled their business in both scrimmages?
Yeah, the defense.
And I think that there's, Joey's gone out of his way to go, hey, but in practices, the offenses looked really good. Well, in the red zone situations, offenses looked really good. And this is what you want to hear. You want to hear lots of positives about all sides of the ball, because anything in a red and black scrimmage or a fall camp scrimmage, anytime there's something really good, well, there's the inverse as well. But I just think that the overall depth and the competition, and don't let Tim's words about the effort thing get lost on you, because I think that now every Coach Yates, Coach Fitch, Coach DeRuiter, Coach Bookbinder, on and on it goes. They can all push the button like, man, you're not playing very hard today, so come stand over here next to me. Competition is the ultimate motivator. I mean, what did Bob Knight used to say? There's nothing motivating more than this pine right next to me, man. Like, come sit next to me. We'll sit and talk about fishing in the summertime while the rest of your buddies are out there playing. I mean, and Bob Knight, I think his phrase was like, ass meets bench, bench meets ass, then problem solved, problem fixed. As far as playing time goes, but I think the overall effort is a key, because that's a culture thing. That is what you're trying to, impress upon a team, is to just play really hard, and you'll love the results. And it sounds like because of the competition, they've been able to get that out of a lot of these guys on defense.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that for sure, because I felt like regardless of what you might be offering scheme-wise or stars-wise for a recruit or a player, everything has to begin with great effort. Of course, that goes for the offense as well, but I think in particular for a defense, finishing a play, swarming the ball carrier, things like that are little things that guys who finish plays and guys who go on to be consistent, I think, impact players will do. So it all is rooted in how much effort you want to give. And I thought it was interesting, and I'm not surprised to hear DeRuiter say that about effort, but I thought it was interesting also to hear kind of the way Coach McGuire described it this week, as far as the ability, and I think he was talking about, in this instance, outside linebackers, and talking about, telling Dyson, give me your 3 best plays, telling Adedire, go give me your 3 best plays, and so on and so forth, and being able to really keep those fresh legs there. And not just in the sense that you go out there and you give great effort, but also kind of like DeRuiter pointed to, you're thinking about the next guy that goes into the game and how there hasn't been maybe a ton of separation between those guys. Well, he may earn an extra rep if he goes a little harder than you. It's not a really complicated thing. Play hard all the time, good things happen. But I was interested to really hear that be a focal point of, kind of a point adjacent to the overall conversation about depth, in that okay, yeah, we feel like we got more talent or more capable players than we have, but we also feel like that means everybody should be able to really keep their foot on the pedal for longer than maybe they have before.
And two things Joey pointed out, I think, after both of these scrimmages, when he talked with the media, that I think that it's important to note. And if these two things hold true, I think you're in for a fun season on the defensive side of the ball. And one of these leads to some complimentary stuff about an offensive player that you and I have gotten into as well. But the first couple of scrimmages that we heard the conversation, hey, not a lot of room to run. There, couldn't really run on that group, which, I guess that adds to a level of concern with your offensive line. We don't know exactly who would have been participating and where in those scrimmages on the line. And I doubt Taj Brooks was ramped up and getting the full workload. But point stands, the defensive line clearly had been winning those matchups. But who was the one player that you had heard that was like wowing everybody that was making news with the run game was Jacoby Williams. So follow that away as the freshman has got some wiggle and some juice, or maybe there's nothing there. He was making it happen. The other defensive point that was made after both scrimmages, I believe, is that, hey, we didn't give up anything over the top. We kept everything in front of us. So if you really hurt a team's ability to run and then don't give up the big play, what more could you ask for? That I'd take that. And you mix in a few takeaways and some things like that. I mean, it's hard for me to ask much more from a Texas Tech defense than that if you could limit the run game, eliminate the big play, and mix in a few takeaways. Where do I sign? Let's go.
Yeah. And by the way, you think Taj Brooks is afraid of the phrase nowhere to run? Not at all. He's a walking machete in a jungle, just braving through the path in any way he sees fit. Now, we would hope for some, but that would be nothing new to him. And the yards after contact king of college football, I'd have to call Taj Brooks. Before we kind of leave the general defensive conversation, because I want to get into, a word you mentioned right there, that being turnovers. We want more of them in 2024. And I don't know how you do it without this next group really making an impact that I want to talk about. But before we get there, talking about multiple looks from a defense, it kind of leads me to wonder if maybe athletes better prepared to take on that type of ask from their coordinator this day and age than maybe they were once upon a time. And maybe that wasn't too long ago. Could also probably apply this to maybe the offensive side as well, and being asked to do multiple things as an offense, because I know there have been years gone by, Chris. And by the way, as a Tech fan, we got to try on many defensive coordinators at one point in time. It's like trying on new hats and just seeing which one we liked, unfortunately. But I remember sometimes it almost seemed like to a DC's detriment that things are too exotic, or maybe you're trying to do too much, or the multiple looks are too much for this defense possibly to take on. But I feel like I hear about it more and more in college football. Do you think maybe an athlete, are they getting practice on this at an earlier level than maybe they were once previously? Is it something that's rooted now on a high school level that wasn't previously? Or have you just got the right mix? What do you think about that overall conversation? Because I know sometimes that's, when you talk exotic, when you talk multiple, it's kind of been a scary thing.
And you're talking about a variety of skill sets or kind of the position.
Yeah, just, like the old school DC, all right, we run a 50, and here's the 4 ways we do it. We do 50 on first down. We do 50 on second down. Oh, it's a 50 on third down as well. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's really been something a little more consistent than, no, we've got a variety of ideas.
Yeah, and I think coaches have been forced to adapt because I just think don't get this twisted, because there's programs, whether it's college, pro, whatever, where you have an identity. This is what we do here. But sometimes that's bad coaching. You also have to take what you have and put those guys in a position to succeed. This group may not be good at running the wishbone. The group 2 years ago may have just been crushing it, or whatever it may be. I mean, so I think you have to be able to adapt a bit and, thrive different ways and kind of morph it based on what your players and your skill set is. I mean, you could have a much bigger team. Anyway, I say all that to say that football has changed. I think that the 7-on-7 component in Texas high school football has really changed it, because we'll give Mike Leach a lot of credit here. everybody's running a variation of the spread. And then they start doing this in the summer. And then before you know it, there's a ton of Texas high school football quarterbacks that end up being college quarterbacks and being in the NFL. Drew Brees being one of the headliners there. And it just kind of became a thing. And now we've actually kind of changed back. I'll give Iowa State defensive coordinator John Heacock a lot of credit here for creating that like cover 4 double cloud look where keep everything in front because I can employ 5 DBs. Well, there's a lot more DBs walking around out there in the world than there are 300-pound defensive tackles and ends and all that kind of stuff. So if I can, showcase some more of a DB linebacker look and keep everything in front, eliminate the big play. So there's just a lot more in between gray area with positions and schemes and multiple looks. And that's the way football is absolutely changed. And I just think it's wild to me that it used to be in the Big 12, it was all about the QB and the receiver. And then all of a sudden it's now a lot about the running back and everybody's employing tight ends. I just it's wild. Yeah, absolutely. And
be on that list.
That's right. And on the all conference team, why is there a fullback listed? Come on, man. I mean, like an H-back or a utility that's kind of like that tight end, what you've seen around here for a period of time. So I don't know. I think it's a great question, but yeah, there's just a lot more hybrid. I think that's just the best word for it. But I think, coaches have morphed their schemes and, just a lot more multiple look, odd man, even man, you running 5 DBs, 4 DB. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, 3-3, 3-3-5. I mean, there's all kind of the stack looks. And now you can tell your team, hey, show this, switch it to that. And you can tell the linebacker, this is just a lot more advanced.
I think the offensive, and I was thinking the same thing, 7-on-7, that example is a perfect example of kind of what I'm asking about the defense, because once upon a time, I don't think there were so many high school quarterbacks showing up at a college program that ran an offense like that were so skilled already with an ability to perform that way. And look, having these multiple ideas and all this stuff is great, but then you've got to have humans go out and execute it. And that means there are multiple things to keep straight between the ears, right? So sometimes it can be, just like we said yesterday, chess versus checkers, what's best for this group of personnel that I'm working with. But obviously, if we all had our druthers, you would like to be versatile. So let's hope that druther is going to be out there for us this year.
The Jimmies and the Joes, man.
That's right.
Jimmys and the Joes.
Real
quick, final thought. It's worth pointing out what you just touched on. Intelligence is definitely recruited as much as size and speed and skill and all those things. These kids must understand and learn a lot and execute it. And that's this many guys may have a chance to play on defense tells me that the football IQ on that side of the ball is pretty darn high. Because Rabbit wasn't the biggest guy. He was just so savvy and smart with great instincts that put himself and his teammates in positions to make plays. And so I think that needs to be pointed out as well.
Yeah, and there's no question. We've referenced, I think, this quote from Jimmy Johnson just within the last few weeks about, never taking a dumb player again. He talked about, I don't need this most talented guy or this biggest guy, but God help me if I ever take a dumb player again. So there are some things that give you an advantage, obviously, beyond the measurables. I do want to talk some Jimmies and Joes, though, before we get out of here, because first, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and America's #1 sportsbook is shaking it up to kick off football season with an offer a football fan can't afford to miss. Right now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. And, of course, you can cancel at any time. Again, from right now through September 22nd, bet $5 and take advantage of a free 3-week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Today's episode brought to you by Factor. Fuel up this summer with Factor's no prep, no mess meals and meet all of your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, even keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in only 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. What are you waiting for? Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you're going to always have new flavors to explore. From breakfast to dessert, you can stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. So go ahead and treat yourself to restaurant quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, blackened salmon, and much, much more, all while keeping kitchen time to a minimum since Factor meals are ready in only 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. So head to factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 and use our code lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code lockedoncollege50 at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 for 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active with Factor. I do want to talk some Jimmys and Joes, though, before we get out of here, because I'm kind of thinking, as we talked about yesterday, a theme from Coach Kitley and the coaching staff at large being this team will go the way that the QB goes. Well, defensively, some sort of an equivalent, I think, would sound like this when you're talking about wanting to really restore your ability to take the football away. You ever known a team to be able to do that without an outside linebacker, an edge rusher, a defensive end, or someone of the sort wreaking some havoc in the backfield? And I know they're called on a variety of things to do, so it's not all about killing the quarterback. But, Chris, this is a group that can be primarily, chiefly responsible for that. And it's one of the more intriguing groups, I think, on either side of the football for Tech this year. And I want to get to some individuals that you'll hear named here by Texas Tech defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter. And I don't know if we qualify it as a surprise or, like you'll hear from him, something that resembles a group of starters beyond what can be listed. But as we saw something come out from fall camp, it didn't quite include maybe the guys at the top of the list that we assumed in Isaac Smith and Joseph Adedire. Now, there's a reason for that Coach DeRuyter will mention. But here he is talking about the aforementioned Adedire, about a guy like Isaac Smith, and then those that we better get to know real fast, like Harvey Dyson and Amir Washington. Here's Coach DeRuyter.
Both Joe and Isaac, in their defense, have had off-season injuries that they had to overcome, which gave an opportunity for guys like Amir Washington to step his game up. Another guy, Harvey Dyson, he was, I don't want to say on the chopping block, but he was being looked at hard because he'd been here a couple of years, he was inconsistent, and he needed to put it all together. Well, he's stepped up. He's really been one of our most productive outside linebackers through the spring and now through fall camp as far as sacks, tackles for loss. Does a really good job in our sim pressures, getting into coverage and understanding coverage. So he gives you a lot of different looks, which is why those guys are ahead of them right now. But even though they may start, Isaac may play more plays than them. It's just how the game rolls out and what we need at the time. Isaac and Joe give us very physical front, and Isaac's a really smart player, and so is Joe. They can play either side. There's some nuance to playing the field or the boundary. But the fact that they're both experienced football players that are physical gives them a chance where any one of those four play. I think I consider them all starters.
As impactful of a position group for any football team, I think, as any other we'd discuss, Chris. And I want to get further into Amir Washington coming up in just a moment, but pretty interesting comments about Mr. Harvey Dyson there that was being looked at closely and sounds like some type of fuse may have been lit coming into this fall camp.
Yeah, I think Joey has touched on this before, but it's like as you go through a season or after a spring, and they just changed the rule now to where there is only one portal window that's about to be in play. But there's been a couple of cycles here where you had opportunities to, hit the portal after a season and then again after spring. But I think with that, there's certain times where you just have a heart-to-heart with a young man and you say, hey, man, I think you're a great person. I think you can be a good player. It's just not going to be here. So,
Yeah.
So we would suggest that if you really want to play, it's just like we'll help you do what you can. And I think what Joey sees is sometimes in a spring, or if a kid's not playing in the season, whether it's red shirt or they're just third or fourth on the depth chart, they'll kind of coast and they kind of get through it and it's not my time yet. That infuriates him. And there's been some guys that you have a heart to heart with, man. Hey, if this is how you're going to roll and you're not really trying to push every day, this is not the program for you. But I love that Harvey got that message loud and clear. And it sounds like, because that's Tim saying that, that's Coach Ayu saying that. And we talked about when Coach Ayu talked about it, in my opinion, he's one of the hardest guys to earn praise from. He just keeps it real. He was in the NFL. He looks like he could play right now. He's the back alley guy, that like you want next to you. And so when you've earned his respect, that goes a long way. And I think Harvey Dyson, it sounds like he's practice matters.
Yeah, he was called the most impactful or consistently impactful pass rusher when we heard from Coach Ayu. So he was at the top of the list. Having
said all of this, I think this is phenomenal news because we already know. I've seen enough from Isaac in brief flashes. I know how he's wired. I know what an alpha he is. I know all the things. He chases tornadoes. He's eating glass and nails for breakfast. We got all that established. Adedire, very similar. He's played a ton of football, and he played last year basically the whole year hurt. So if those are like potentially like backups or non-starters in any way, although Tim just says, hey, they're all 4 starters. Let's not get it twisted. This is nothing but good news to me. And the best part, not a senior amongst the quartet there. Not a senior amongst them.
That's true. Let's wrap it up with a guy that I've been really most excited, I think, defensively and kind of coming out of nowhere feeling that way. But to see back on the field this season, I'm glad to hear that he's had a good enough fall camp to be listed where he is listed. And I know that he got on the radar of Red Raider fans because he showed up and made a big impact with a pair of sacks, handful of tackles in the bowl game against Cal. But that's one Amir Washington, who's gotten plenty of opportunity during this camp. Let's take a listen really quickly to Coach DeRuiter again talking about Amir.
A guy like Amir Washington showed a glimpse in the bowl game because he's had a really good camp, but I think people saw that and said, hey, that guy's going to be a guy for us. And I think he's really had a nice camp. He's made a jump from a year ago. He's matured. He's being much more consistent.
Chris, whenever a guy jumps onto the scene with a pair of sacks in a bowl game, and that's your final taste, kind of leave you wanting a little more, right? And it's been a long way, so I can't wait to find out what he's got for us in 2024.
I'm at the grocery store about 3 mornings ago when I have somebody walk up to me and they go, and I just wasn't thinking football at the time. I was just they go, how's the Meyer? How good is he? How good can he be? And I'm like, I'm sorry, sir. Who are you talking about? And he's like, a Meyer. And I'm like, man, I I need more context. Come to find out, he was talking about Amir Washington. So, and I'm thinking like, dang, have I been mispronouncing this wrong the whole time? But if you get on TexasTech.com, there's a little ear symbol, like you can press it. It's Amir Washington. So yeah, apologies to the guy in the grocery store in the produce section that I did not know who Amir was, but it's Amir.
He has the season like we want him to, we will not be confusing that.
Correct. His name will be called Plenty.
That's right.
This is only he's played in 2 games. And you're right. The last time we saw him, it was a lot of fun. And you and I have even speculated is that Amir or Amir? Is that Amir or is that the Cal offensive line? Like it was maybe just one of those games. There's a lot of upside here, a lot of potential. I think, and with all of these young guys, we will look up 6 to 7 weeks from now when we get halfway through the season. Some of them won't have done much. Some of them will have done so much that we go, oh man, you got a good one here.
Yeah,
they'll have started to put it together, and it doesn't mean the ones that won't have done much. It's time to throw the baby out with the bathwater or anything like that, but there will be some that really start to put it together and it clicks and they start to put up, things that show up in a box score and make game-changing plays. And Amir Washington could certainly be one of those because he certainly did that in the Independence Bowl.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if he was at Harrah's Casino and ever rolling dice or playing blackjack, but if he wasn't crapping out. I mean, he was on fire that night and was a big reason why you won the game as comfortably as you did.
Yeah, no doubt. And then followed it up with an off season, a spring camp, and a fall camp that's led to him. Sounds like not losing any ground. So good on him if that's the case. A heck of a follow-up to, I guess, the first kind of look at what we saw he could do as far as making an impact. Hope to see plenty more of it coming up this year. All right, Chris, you know what it is, right? Just one more go-round, and we put this off season to bed. Are you ready yet? I'm going to miss some things about this off season. Psych, I'm ready.
Yeah, one more sleep.
That's
one
right.
more sleep. I'm as it gets closer, we all need a game to play and to watch and to react to and just see it because the off seasons are so long. But again, the seasons, if the season was just going on all the time, then it wouldn't be near as special as it is. So
that's right.
Anyway, but yeah. But I'm ready. I'm ready to watch these guys hit somebody else, play somebody else, and I'm not really the biggest fan of the color purple either. So there you go.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We got one more go round before it's that time again, Saturday night from Jones Stadium. I appreciate your time today, Chris, and we'll see you for the next one.
I appreciate your time. I can't even say it. I'm just so appreciative. I can't even spit out the word appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate it as well. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow. And, not much time left, man, before kick. 6:30 on Saturday night.
That's right. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Appreciate you being out there and hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.